Welcome back to the new player career build series. This is episode number 2. So last episode, I went through all of the options on how to set up your world, how to add the custom menu, and I went through all the different UI. We'll be going over more UI and stuff as we move along. This episode, what we're going to do is we're going to make a companion save file, and this is going to be our custom save file. This is where we should probably build and test our vehicles. So let's go ahead and we're going to quickly set up a new game. So we're going to make it the same C192837 that I had last time. We're going to change this to custom now. We're going to go and we're going to start at the same dock that we had last time. So we'll go ahead and we'll find that. Enable add-ons. We don't need all these on. All we're doing in this one is we're not doing actual missions in here. All we're going to be doing is we're going to be building our vehicles. All right, and so let's go ahead and I'll turn on AI just for the funsies of it. No missions on this one. You can if you want, but I'm not going to. Let's see. Cargo containers will turn on. I'll do that because, I may want to test out vehicles that can haul containers. Delivery zones we won't worry about. Dock bollards we'll want. No forest fires, landmarks can come on. No missions here. We just don't need it. No natural disasters. Oil survey will turn on because we may be testing oil rigs in this series. Default railroad signals, we may be testing trains. So this is going to be our test save. This is where we're going to build stuff, test stuff, and it doesn't cost us any real money, and we don't have to worry about eating up our money or our fuel in game. We can test our vehicle with no consequences. Default resource trading in case we want to test some of the coal or metal. Let's see. Default tutorial stays off. Default underwater mission zones and weapons AI will all stay off. So that was simple to set that up, and we're good to go. So let's go ahead and confirm that. Now this is a custom game. We have infinite money. The creative menu or the custom menu, it's called both. Creative or custom menu is already established. We don't have to add it this time. And so this is where I highly recommend you build your vehicles and test them in here again because you have no consequences. So we're just going to do the same dude and we're in the same spot. Now if we notice, custom menu is already saved. If we go to map, there is no money. We have infinite money. This is our free sandboxy game. You will notice we get that fog of war. That's what I was telling you about last episode. If we go to custom menu and we do reveal the map, that gets rid of that fog of war. We can see our map. All right, so we now have infinite resources. So in the other save file, we had a mission pop up right here. So we need to start our first little boat. So let's go ahead, and again, this is the new player career build series. So this is for people to build their first thing on their first day. Here's one of the dogs. Hello, dog. All right, so let's get acclimated with our base here really quick. We talked about fuel last time. You have a limited supply of fuel. This is infinite electricity free right there. And so let's go ahead and let's go in the workbench. So the first thing I would recommend you do is notice my movement. I can orbit and I can fly around. I'm using WSAD. I'm holding the right mouse button and I can pan my camera as I move my mouse. Most people are going to start with this. I believe it is this one here. Where is it? I think it's this one. It's this orbit mode. You orbit the block. This is how your game is going to start. So one of the first questions I see a lot of new players ask is, I see people moving their camera around. How do I move my camera around? The game will not explode if you press one of these buttons. So go ahead and test things out. Press on the camera, and you want to go to free cam mode, and now free cam mode will allow you to fly around your build. All right, so don't be afraid to hit some buttons. So it seems like a lot of people are terrified to hit something and break something. Go ahead and hit them. So we're going to go through the UI here again. This is for brand new players. Symmetry. Symmetry will duplicate the planes. So for example, if I take a block down here and I put it to the right, you'll notice we don't get any symmetry. If I click the X plane, it will tell us the plane in which we're going to get symmetry, and now it puts one in symmetry. If I do the Y plane, it shows me it's up down. If I use the Z plane, it's forward back. Now, I almost only ever do the X plane. It's up to you what you want to do. This is very important to be careful with this. If you're going to make something asymmetrical, you need to disable it. If you want to make something symmetrical, do that. This works for everything. Painting, for example, you can paint on multi-faces. So always make sure you have your symmetry either on or off, however you want it. So when we start a new New build, it's going to start with a single block like this. So that is symmetry. Next one is section plane. We're not going to really worry about this. This will do like a cross section of your vehicle just for visuals. We won't go in that. Center of mass. See this pink square? That is where the center of mass is. This is very important for planes and boats. This is going to make sure your vehicle is stable. You always want your center of mass at the center of buoyancy in a boat and at the center of gravity in a plane, center of lift in a plane as well. So that just shows that. We can deselect that. Rotation labels are done with the P key. I almost have them always off. If we press the P key, you'll notice it will tell you O. We'll flip it from left face to right face. We have I is up, down. J, K. So K rotates. J goes forward and back. L goes left, right. So those are your rotations. I just shut them off. I remember at this point. Grid lines. If we go ahead and we lay out a couple blocks, you'll notice they look like segmented blocks. When we're in the world, we will not see segmented blocks. In the world, it will look like that. So I always leave them on when I'm in the editor. It makes it easier to find blocks. But you can shut them off, and that will show you what your build's actually going to look like in the world. Next is measurements. If we look at the bottom here, on the bottom right corner there, you can see it pops up measurements when we're dragging. It's telling me it's 1 in the red axis, which is left-right, I believe, as you can see. It's telling me it is 12 in the blue axis. Blue is forward and back, as you can see. So it tells me both in meters, and it tells me how many blocks. So 12 blocks is 3 meters. Each meter is 4 blocks. And then green is vertical. As you can see, that will count my blocks. So if you want to make a boat that's 10 meters long, you can use that. So leave that on if you like. World view. This puts up the world view. This is good for, say, example, making sure your boat's sitting in the water. It's not under the water. It's not going to drop. You'll see a lot of people, they'll just drop their build from a high height. That will show the world view. Editor warnings, you can turn these on, but I generally don't. It will tell you if an electrical connection is not connected or something. All right, let's go through here. Exit will get us out of here. Spawn spawns your vehicle. If you look there, it will tell us how much our vehicle weighs in mass. It's pretty much kilograms. Cost, how much it's going to cost us. Remember, this is important. In our career game, we only have $20,000, so we need to make sure that the boat we build here is less than $20,000. New vehicle starts a new vehicle. Loads a save vehicle. Saves this vehicle. That uploads to the workshop. That undos and redos. That is our select. So we can select things like, for example, microcontrollers. Notice we cannot select blocks, but we will be able to select other components. Erase. You can also press the X key. I almost never do it because I don't want to accidentally delete stuff, but you can if you want. So we have a block. We place it. We press X. We can click it and delete it. So that is what that's about. Move. We can move the entire build up and down. You'll notice a lot of new players, they start their builds way up here and they plop into the water or they fall on the ground and break them. This is how you move the entire build. Logic. We don't have any logic set up yet. That will show our different logic nodes. We have data, composite, electric, video, audio, and rope logic. Merge. We'll go into merge and selection tool. This is one of the best features, in my opinion, that makes this game miles above better than other games, is the ability to select parts and merge them very simply. All right, so let's go ahead and get building. We'll go over more of these parts as we go. So first thing we're going to do is we want to build a boat here. And so I have a hull tutorial I built. What we'll do is we'll use that. And the reason is I will save you. It will take us many hours to get building our first boat. So I highly recommend go watch the hull tutorial if you'd like to. This is on the workshop. The hull tutorial video is on my YouTube. This will save us from having to go in and have to do an hour to just build our first hull. If you'd like, this is free to use in the workshop. I just ask if you use my hull, just credit me, as the hull came from Captain. But you can watch the video if you want. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead, and we're just going to start with this new hull. If we go to World View, what we want to do is we want to put the water line right on the water, like that. And what that will do is when we spawn it, as you can see, it doesn't drop in, it just placed in. You'll see a lot of new players, they'll do this. They'll have their hull, they'll leave it all the way up the top, and then when they spawn it, it plops into the water, and sometimes it causes problems. So, again, if you want to see a little bit of tips and tricks on hull building, go watch that first series, that first video of it. I'll link it in the description. If you build a proper hull, your boat's going to operate a lot better. So we're going to start with this, and I'll spare you guys going through and actually, spending an hour building this hull because it will take time. This is a game that's going to take some time to learn, and for a lot of us that's rewarding. A lot of us aren't really thrilled with that. So for me, I enjoy the building. So down here, we're going to start building. I will not build with the stock engines. They are easier. They are old school. I highly recommend you learn how to build modular engines as soon as possible. I have many tutorials. Go ahead and watch those. We'll build it here, but I highly recommend you do that. It's going to make your gameplay so much better. The modular engines are just that. They're modular. They're easy to configure. I would highly recommend you do that. So we're going to build a boat because we need to do this mission. So let's get moving on it. So this is in the world. We're going to build it pretty simple here. We'll go ahead and we'll start with a helm. All right, you can either do a seat or a helm. I'm going to start with a helm, just a vertical helm like this. And we're going to build a, let's turn on symmetry. This will also show you how to get it centered like that. I highly recommend you start your first boat simple. Do not go overboard here. What we're trying to do in this episode is complete the first mission. That's it. We don't need to do much. The next thing we need to do is we need to build some engines here. So we're going to build some modular engines. And so we'll go ahead and we'll go down underneath here. This is going to be a twin engine, 2-engine boat. This is better for maneuverability. I like that a little bit more. So the pipes carry everything for us. The pipes carry our fluids. The pipes also carry the torque that enables us to be able to power things. So our pipes are our connections to the world. There are torque, there are fluids. So let's go ahead and we'll actually go up. Yeah, that's good. We'll go like this. So we'll put a pipe. Now, the pipes here I have connected to these propellers. All right. And if we look at the end of the propeller, I'll just grab one. So these are the propellers I have on board here. I'm just going to stick one on the side. And if you look at these connections, the connections have the same shape. So if I put a pipe above it here, again, like I said, pipe will carry torque. Look at the shape is the same. We have the same octagon. We have the same color. The color can be different for example, we could put water through these pipes. But this is how we carry that torque is with the pipes. So we're piped down to our propellers there. And next thing we need to do is for a modular. I have many modular engine tutorials, so we'll go through this fast. If you need a little bit of guidance on that, you can go ahead and watch one of those tutorials. So we need a clutch. The clutch is what allows us to add or relieve pressure from our engine. All right, from there we need crankshafts. Again, we want like parts to have the same shape. Look at the shape. The shape is the same, so we know those attach. Look at the shape on the side here. The shape on the side is this square with 4 diamonds. If I put the square with 4 diamonds, which it actually just grabbed itself, if I put the square with 4 diamonds, that is not going to pass any power through there. So make sure you're putting the like shapes there. All right. It will take you some time getting used to flipping objects again. We'll go through flipping again. We have K. K rotates. L goes in this axis. J goes in the forward back axis. You can also mirror things. We'll go over that later. So we're going to start out pretty simple. We don't need a super duper fast boat. You see a lot of new players. They want a huge, fast boat. Make something simple as your first boat. I know it's boring to make something simple and easy. Make it easy, and then you can always make it better later. But very quickly, you're going to want to make your next vehicle. You'll find that as soon as you start getting done with your first vehicle, you want to make your next one. So build something simple to start with. Simple is easy, simple is safe. Simple is going to help you get moving in this game. And then you can build something more complex. You can make your vehicle better later. So we're going to just start putting these, I'll show you what I'm doing here. Modular cylinder 1x1s. And we're just going to do an inline 4 cylinder. So we have 2 inline 4s. All right. Next thing we want to do is we need a starter. This will help us start our engines. So that is in there. I need a space for gearbox. So we'll go ahead. I forgot to put gearboxes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the selection tool. One of the best tools, one of the best things in this game. We'll go to selection grid. Click on that. Now we need to press the control key. It brings up this orange box and we can control parts. So we're going to go control and click on that. Next to the shift key. If I press the shift key, as you see, I can drag the box. I'm going to go over to my other engine, and I'm going to go up one like so. All right, we could also shift back, but we can also go over here to resize grid, and we're going to resize, and we're going to go all the way back. As you see, there's my pipe. I forgot to put in gearboxes, so I'm going to cut this whole thing, and I'm going to use the arrow, and I'm going to drag it forward too. We're going to go ahead and paste it. All right. Next thing we need to do is if it's not touching something, it won't let us put it, but what we could do is we can put a block underneath. As you can see, now we can go merge, click on the green, click on the red. Now they're part of the same block again. All right, that's one of the best tools in this game. Gearbox. I have a gearing tutorial. You can go ahead and watch that. That goes into extreme detail. I'm not going into extreme detail, or else each of these videos will be 4 hours long before we get to do anything. If you want to, go ahead and watch those tutorials. So if you look at the gearbox, we have an arrow. If the arrow is pointing towards the engine, that is trading torque for RPS. RPS makes us go faster. Torque gives us more power. Very simple concepts here. They're more in depth. Go watch the gearing tutorial. If we make this arrow point away from the engine, as you can see it is doing right now, we're trading RPS for torque. What that means is if we have a 3-to-1 gear ratio in this box, that means for every 3 turns of the engine, we're getting 1 turn of the propeller. This gives us strength. This is good for like a tugboat. We're not building a tugboat, we're building a rescue boat. So we're going to press J and J to rotate it. Now the arrow is pointing towards the engine. For every 1 rotation of the engine, we're going to turn the propeller 3 times. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click that in there. We're going to do 2 for now. All right, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with 3-to-1s. Now, you don't get anything for free. All right, you're trading your torque, in this case, for RPS speed. As you trade your torque, you're giving away power for speed. Eventually, you're going to not have enough power to do it. And so the way I like to think of this is you have 2 people. You have a skinny runner. They're skinny. They're a really good runner. You have somebody who's really big and muscular. They're not a very good runner, but they can carry a lot of weight. So if you take a skinny runner and you give him a 1 kilogram weight to hold in his hand, he can still beat the big muscly guy. He can still run, say, 10 miles faster. Eventually, if you give that person more and more weight, eventually the muscle guy is going to be able to run 10 miles faster than the skinny guy because they're stronger. They can hold more weight. So eventually, you're going to trade away so much of your torque that you're going to actually go slower by increasing your gear ratio. This confuses a lot of people. Go watch the gearing tutorial. So we're going to start with both of these, set to 3-to-1. And I'm actually going to make my reverse gear here with the second one. Now you can put it on here. Boats generally in real life do not shift gears. The only gear they shift is reverse. You'll see a lot of people making essentially car transmissions for boats. I don't like doing it. It's not thematically correct. You don't really need to do it. And so we're going to start like that. All right, so now we have those parts connected. Let's go ahead back to modular engine. We're going to try to do this as fast as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to go. Next thing we need is an alternator. Alternators are little generators that produce electricity for us to be able to charge our battery. So we're going to put an alternator on each side. We should only need one unless you're really draining a ton of electricity. Next thing we do is we're going to actually pump with the modular engine fluid pump. This is going to be for our cooling system. All right. Next thing we need is a coolant manifold right here. And so if we look, I just typed in mod. Now you notice I have some things down on my bar here. I didn't talk about that. You can drag whatever you want on the bar. All right, so I want to put my wedge back on there. You can drag it on your bar. And this, I put my most commonly used things. You can also control click. So let's say I have a block and I want another coolant manifold. If I press control and hold it and click, now I have this part. Click, click, click. I can copy whatever part I want, as you can see. So it's just some quick little UI stuff there. All right, now the pipe, now notice this octagon here is blue. This is carrying fluid. It tells you right there, blue fluid. All right, and this is fluid in. That one was fluid out. All right, and so what we're going to do is what's known as raw water cooling. All right, what this does is this is the easiest, most efficient way to cool a boat. The only caveat is this. You have what's called scaling. And what scaling is you're taking salt into your engine. The salt will damage your engine, but only if you go above 100 degrees. So what we're going to do is keep our engine below 100 degrees, and we can use raw water cooling. You'll see people all day long struggling to cool modular engines. They're really not all that hard to cool, but they can be a little bit complex. I have some tutorials on cooling. All right, so the easiest way to cool your engine is with raw water. You're taking in salt water, and you take it in to the engine. As you can see, the fluid goes in, so it's going to come up here. One thing I didn't show you what I put on there was these are called fluid ports. Right here, fluid port. So the fluid will come up through the port. It will be pumped up by the pump, and it will go into this pump. As you can see, it's going fluid in. It will then go out here. So again, if we delete this one and we look, this says fluid out. It will then go in this manifold. If we look at the sides of the manifold, we have coolant B, we have coolant A. You don't have to worry about the coolant A and B. You can go either side. And then what we want to do is put another pipe. So this is the simplest, easiest way to cool a boat. Take in seawater. You have a lot of good cold seawater. It goes through the engine. It cools the engine, and it goes and you dump it right back out in the ocean. Super simple, super easy. You just have to keep it below 100 degrees. And I'll show you how the system we build, the engine will shut itself down if it gets over 100 degrees. It shouldn't. We're not going to make this boat crazy. All right, good. So we're pretty well set up here. We need exhaust. So you have a couple pieces there. This confuses a lot of new players. You have these modular engine exhaust manifolds. So I just type in exhaust. You can also type in modular. That will bring up all your modular engine parts. And so we have a couple exhausts here. We have straights and we have corners. I'm just going to grab a corner. And I'm going to have this go right out the back of the boat. And so there are a couple ways you exhaust in boats IRL. You do what's known as wet exhaust. Wet exhaust goes out into the water, and dry exhaust, we don't really have that simulated in game, but you can exhaust into the water. So you can exhaust straight down if you wanted. I'm just going to exhaust out the back. So this would be known as a dry exhaust in real life. You don't really have to get as complicated as it is in real life, which they would inject water. You don't have to do that in game. We're just going to do this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those out like so. Now, this is an issue I see a lot of people do, new players. Again, look at the parts. So here we have exhaust. Let's look at the two sides of the exhaust. It has this square with 4 circles and 4 diamonds. That must attach to a square with 4 circles and 4 diamonds, or else it will not work. Now, they try to do this. New players will often do this. And they'll say, my engine doesn't work. Your engine doesn't work because you just took, let's flip this over and I'll show you. You just took a square with 4 circles and 4 diamonds and tried to attach it to an octagon. You cannot do that. You must attach an octagon to an octagon, and that is a pipe. So that's telling you, hey man, you need a pipe here. And so we need to then pipe. And you notice I bring my pipes all the way back. That will carry my exhaust out. And I can use a bunch of different blocks here. So let's go through them. We can use these fluid ports. All right, and let's read it. Fluid port allows fluid in or out of a fluid system. Air is a fluid. It's part of fluid dynamics. So as part of my degree, we went through, and you'd have fluid dynamics with gases. You have fluid dynamics with liquids. Fluid can be a liquid or a gas. It just can't be a solid. All right, so port used to allow fluid in or out of a fluid system. Place the port inside of an enclosed volume to connect to that volume, or outside the vehicle to connect to the ocean. All right, pretty simple. So we could do this. That would exhaust it. That's fine. We can also use other blocks here. So for example, we could do exhaust. An exhaust port for fluid systems. Fluid can flow in or out of the port as part of a fluid system. So that is your out. This is your in. We can put exhaust on there. I don't really like the look of that. We can also do rams. We can put rams on here. I like the look of this. That's what I'm going to use. So I put rams on there. And we'll paint that part. So I'll show you what I did. Sorry, I did control click the color. As you can see, I can click my color and change color. If I had 10 colors here, I could just control click it. So I went to paintbrush. You have some options here. You have brush, additive. Additive we'll go over later. Replace color. If I have white selected and I press black, all the black will be turned to white. Undo that. bucket will bucket fill this. You can fill the whole plane there. So that's how I change colors there. So now our exhaust is going out. So we have the exhaust all set up there. Let's just delete this. All right, next thing, let's go back to mod for modular. And the next part we need is we're going to need an air manifold. Now, the air manifold takes air into the engine, and we need air and we need fuel. The air-fuel mixes, it combusts, and that's how we get power. So we need the air there as well. All right, next thing we want is we're going to want to come in here, and we need a fuel manifold, rather, right here, fuel manifold. Again, if we look at the back of these manifolds, they have that square, 4 circles, 4 diamonds. They must be attached to that. Look at the bottom here, it has the octagon. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put some piping, and we're just going to pipe up, and we're going to put some fuel tanks. Now, I talked about how it's important to see the center of gravity. Your boat has buoyancy, it wants to float. You want to put your weight, ideally, you want your center of gravity in the middle of the boat. As you can see, it's pretty close to the middle. But you really want the center of buoyancy. We can't tell where our center of buoyancy is. The game doesn't show us, but we can kind of guess. So you notice this boat has less enclosed volume in the front than it does in the back. This is square, that's pointy. So I tend to push this center of gravity back. Again, watch the hull tutorial. I go over some of that. We want to put our fuel tank or tanks, we want to put it in the center of gravity or as close as possible. And this is the reason why. If we put the fuel tank, we'll type in tank. Let's grab a large fluid tank. This has mass, especially when it's full of fuel. If I put it way up here in the nose, watch what it does. If I do undo, notice, see the center of gravity moves forward and back. As that fuel burns, it's going to cause the bow to raise up. As it's full of fuel, the bow is going to go down. We don't want that. If we put it in the center, the entire boat goes, and we don't tip one way or the other. So we want to put our fuel ideally at the center of gravity. So we'll get rid of that tank. And we see the center of gravity is right here, and we can put it right here. So we can go a little bit forward, which we will. We'll go right here. And as you can see, so as that burns fuel, the fuel will go, and it will, it will keep it centered for us. So we always want that balance. So we're going to use a T-piece here. And we're going to just tee this off to both engines. So both engines will eat from the same fuel tank. All right. And so we'll connect those. So now we have fuel, air, we have yet to connect, we have coolant, we have exhaust. So we need to hook up our air. So let's go up, and this is something you're going to need to be careful of. You need to make sure your air is high enough. You cannot feed water to your engine instead of air. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that these air intakes are above your water. So we're going to cut a hole in the base of the ship there. And we're actually going to route where we want this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a little canopy for this boat. So let's undo that really quick. Let's cut a hole in here. All right. And I have symmetry on. And we're going to go ahead and we'll take a pipe straight and closed. So if you type in pipe, you can do these naked pipes. Things like water can get around these, so these will not seal a volume. You need to have an enclosed one to seal it. So we're going to go ahead and we'll take a straight pipe enclosed, which is already on my bar here, and I'm going to put it here. Now the water cannot get down there. If I put a pipe like this, the water can get in there and our boat will sink. So we need to make sure that's enclosed. Next thing we'll do is we want to make this so that it is... We're going to do like a canopy here above, and so we'll go up like this. And I'm just going to make a little roof for the pilot to be able to go through. So what I want to do here is I want to do another one of these enclosed pipes. And then we're just going to make a little canopy over our player character. Now our player character is 7 blocks tall. This is how tall our player is. And so I'm leaving an extra space so they don't hit their head. All right. And we're going to go ahead and we'll go, say, 2 blocks back. We'll drag like that. And then what will go is one there. And then what I'll do is I'll grab a wedge. And we're going to make this really simple. I just want to go do this rescue. And we will start with our simple boat. Your first boat is going to be blocky and ugly. Don't worry about it. You're going to see people who, unkind people, if you post pictures of your builds, put in a brick symbol. Don't worry about it. You're learning here. All right, there's no shame in building something ugly and hideous as your first boat. Do not worry about it. All right, and so I'm just going to put this, so this is like a little bimini top for us to stand under. Very simple. We're going to start simple. We'll make it more complicated later. All right, so the pipe is now needs to be connected to our air. So what we'll actually do is let's delete our air and move it. So we'll go back in, we'll type in mod for modular. We'll grab this modular engine air manifold and we'll straighten it up, right like that. All right, and oh, that was actually a good guess. It's right under there. So now this will draw air from up there, but we cannot terminate here. We need to put a fluid port. We can put a fluid port here. We can take any of those that I talked about that suck air before. I'm going to use an air filter. These will help keep from getting water in there. So as you can see, the water is going to be down here. We do not want to suck water into our engines, so this needs to be up high. Let's make a microcontroller for these engines, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. And so I call one blank. This is how you do that. Go up here to microcontroller. All right, your first microcontroller, you can name whatever you want when you save it. So let's do, if you name it blank, which I do, blank, and save it. If I have one called blank already, right here. All right, so what I like to do, then what you can do is you can come in here, and when you type in blank, here's your blank microcontroller. So it will save all your microcontrollers. For example, if I do door, these are my microcontrollers save door, but we're going to go blank. I'm going to start by putting it on the deck. You'll notice a lot of people when they build their builds, they have all these microcontrollers all over the outside. Don't hide them yet. Just put them on the deck. It makes it so much easier for you to do this. All right, and we're going to name it. So go ahead and name it. So this is going to be the new player series boat. Okay, good. And so we're going to go ahead and we can drag the width of it. We can drag the length of it. Now, keep in mind, when you update this, that will go through and that will cut holes in your boat. So if I kept extending it, it would put a hole in the boat. So keep that in mind. All right, so now the select tool, I'll try to remember to say what I'm pressing. The select tool is what you'll use to click into your microcontroller. New player series boat, edit microcontroller. All right, and you can describe it if you want. Next is logic. All right, symbol is just so you can paint a picture of what this is. I don't bother with any of that. I don't really care about that. That doesn't do anything for me, so I just don't even bother with painting nonsense on there. Next, we want logic nodes. So we need to add a node. It's going to be a composite input. That's helm. All right. Next one here we're going to add is going to be starter. And this is going to be an output. Output goes from the panel to something. Input goes from that something to the panel. So we're going to control our whole panel with the helm. And we're going to output to the starter to starter engine. Next one we're going to need here is, it's going to be a number. Output, that's going to be air manifold. Now, a lot of people might tell you, go start with the default engines. I think the best thing for you to do is learn how modular engines work now. They are so much better in almost every way. You can make them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. You can configure them. You can go super simple. You can go more advanced on them. I think modular engines are better in every way. I think it's better than starting with some old engine. I think it's better to learn this stuff now. Take the time to learn it than to try to learn it later. Number, output, this is going to be fuel manifold. I have plenty of tutorials. You can learn all this stuff there, and we're going to do it right now. All right, next one is number, output, clutch. And let's start with that. All right, so let's go into logic. So up here on the bar, we click logic, and now it brings in the microcontroller. Now, this is my tip here, what I like to do. Type in property. Just prop is fine. And right here, you have property text. I use this to label stuff. So I'm going to type this, and I'm going to go spawn. And I'll tell you why. This is where all your nodes are going to spawn. As you see, as we add nodes, they spawn there. And so the reason I add the spawn here is what I first do is I highlight all of these that I just made, and I drag them down a little bit. As you can see, they're all stacked up like this. All right, that's the whole stack we made. Now we're going to fill this area with logic. And the reason I add that spawn area is when I add a node and I go back, here it is. We know right where it's going to be. The problem is if you leave your stuff right up here, when you spawn that, it's going to be in the middle. It's going to be very hard to find. By moving this by moving your stack down, building down here, and leaving the spawn area by itself, it makes so you can easily find your newly spawned stuff. So we'll put it right there. Perfect. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start loading these up. All my outputs go on this right side. All right. And all my inputs are going to go on this side. So inputs on one side, outputs on the other. All right. So let's go ahead and let's look at our helm. So again, with the select tool selected, we're going to click on the helm. All right, this is new player boat. Okay. And we're going to do a hat pilot mask. You put that mask on when you go to operate it. Headset, let's say your engines are really loud. That will make your engines quieter. Helicopter helmet, we're going to do none. We don't need any of that. We have axes. AD, we can label it. I highly recommend you label it. You can, this mode's reset. What reset means is when you put in an input, it will go back to center. So it's good for like steering wheels, right? You turn left, but then your wheels will auto center. So this is going to be steering. We're going to do reset, 10% is fine. WS is going to be throttle. This one here is going to be reset. We're going to go to 100%, and I'll show you why later. Because we're going to make this sticky. All right. Left, right, we're not going to worry about right now. Up, down, we're not going to worry about now. Trigger, and we're not going to worry about any of this. This here, we're going to be start/stop. So there's going to be a toggle. So when we turn on our engine, this is going to be on. When we press 6 again, it will shut our engine off. All right, so we're going to start with that. Pretty simple. That's all configured. We're now going to go to logic. We're currently on data. We're going to go to composite. And now we have this node from the helm. If you hover over it, you can read it. It's a composite. It's an output. Output's the access hotkey and occupied data from the helm, and it will tell you what it is. 1 plus, so that's 1 through 6 is going to be hotkeys on off. 31 is your trigger. 32 is your occupied. Value 1 is AD. Value 2 is WS. Value 3 is left, right. 4 is up, down. 9 is look X. 10 is look Y. So if you ever forget what your numbers are, you can hover over and look. We're going to drag this node, and we're going to connect it. Now, if you had multiples, you can drag the node, hold Control, and you can click, 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 click. We don't do that with composites much. We do it sometimes. I'll show you later how we do that. All right, so the next thing. Let's go click on this again. So now the helm can actually control something. We're going to need to add a node. We will rename spawn. So this is going to be composite engine. All right. I will also upload this boat to the workshop so you guys can use it. So here's engine. So we're going to go here, and we'll actually, we need to update it every time we make a change. And so that is in there. So let's go ahead and we'll start building this here. So we have helm. The first thing we need to do is we need to be able to control our throttle. All right, so we made the WS axis, which is the number 2 axis. We made that reset 100%. So what that means is when it's reset 100%, when we press the W key, it is going to read a 1. When we press the S key, it's going to read a -1. When we let go of W or S, it's going to read 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into an up-down counter. So the next thing we need to do is we need to read out of that helm. So if you go over here again, you can find all these in here, search them. I'll say their name. This is composite read number. You would type in composite, and it is here, read number. Drag it down onto your bar, fill your bar. We'll take the node, we'll connect it. So what that's going to do is it's going to read 1, which is steering. We don't want that. We want 2. 2 is WS. All right, so we're going to read that. All right, next thing we want. This is called a threshold. Again, search for it, put it in your bar. And we're going to drag this to here. The threshold here is going to read 1. Remember, when I press W and it's reset 100%, we're going to get a 1. We're going to Control C, Control V that. It will V wherever you put it. So we want it bottom at that block there, here, here. That will copy all that. We can highlight things. We can delete them. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to drag this node here. All right. So real quick, if I press and hold Control, I can deselect. I can also select multiples. I can click as many as I want. All right. This is very important to know in the editor. Hold Control and you can select multiples. Next one here, this is going to be -1. Remember, I said that if we press and hold S, we get a -1. All right. Next thing we want to do is this is the up. So when I press this button, so when I press the W key, it will make this counter count up. That's going to increase our throttle. When I go here to down, when I press S, it's going to count down. This will reset us back to whatever our reset value is. We'll get into that later. So let's click on this, increment. Now, we're making a throttle. So if I press this as 1, every time I press it, it's going, or hold it, it's going to repeat one after the other after the other. It's going to count up 1. That's going to be too much. We're going to do 0.001. All right. So I need to do 100 presses to get 1 unit. And in this case, it's going to be RPS. And we can change this however fast or slow we want our throttle. Reset value is going to be 0. We want to enable the clamp. Our minimum value. Now, in this case, what I'm going to be doing here is this is also going to control our reverse. So I'm going to put a -5. That's going to be 5 RPS in reverse. So this is going to give us 5 RPS backwards. And we want 20 RPS forward. Now this will change. You can change this, but this is how we're going to set it up. 5 backwards. We don't want to go backwards too fast. Forward, we want to be going forward fast. Okay. So that's going to be -5, 20. Perfect. All right. So we're going to go ahead and next thing we need is, this is complicated stuff here, but I'm going to show you how to do it. You can just follow along, and later you can learn more how it's done. This is called a PID. Once you learn PIDs in game, it makes it so much better. You can do so many more complex things. All right. PID stands for proportional, integral, derivative gain. I'm going to make this simple. We're going to only deal with the p-value here. All right. The p-value is proportional. That's it. It's going to make it simple here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to drag our value. This is the set point. And what we're doing here is when we press the W key, it's going to count up to a maximum of 20. That's going to say, hey, engine, I want 20 RPS. All right. The PID is going to say, okay, he says he wants 20 RPS. I need to compare it to something. That's your process variable. So what we need to do is go back to design, logic, add a node. This one is going to be a number input, RPS. Okay. So now what's going to happen is, remember it's up here. We're going to connect the RPS to the process variable. I'll drag this out so you can see it. So we're going to say, hey, engine, I want 20 RPS. It's going to read the RPS. The RPS is, let's say, at 5. All right. And it's going to say, okay, he wants 20, but he's at 5. So what it's going to do is it's going to rev up the engine. It's going to control our engine to get us 20. If it hits 21, it's going to come back. If it hits 19, it's going to go forward. And it's going to automatically give us how many RPS we want. You'll see a lot of new players. They just set their throttle to 1 while the engine's going to keep going and going and going and going. And it's going to blow up. This controls it. It's going to allow us to set what RPS we want there. Now, actually, we need to add something really quick. Now, we cannot have a negative RPS. The engine needs a certain amount of RPS to run. And so we need to put in we'll do a function. You could do a clamp. I highly recommend the function. So let's do a function here. This is more complicated, but again, if you learn these concepts early, you're going to be ahead of the game. So let's put a function. So again, type in function. Now you have many here. You have this one has 3 nodes, this one has many nodes, this one has 1 node. That's the one I have in my bar, 1 node. Okay, let's click on this. Again, if you see a box here, click on it. X is your input, this is X. If we look there, it says X. If we did the multiple ones here, like this one, X, Y, Z. All right, good. So this one just says X. So let's click on it. Variable is X, operators. That's the symbol we use to add. That's the symbol used to subtract, multiply, divide, modulo, and power. Trig functions there. Add-on. All right, so we're going to go to add-on here. We're going to do clamp. So it tells you how to do it. Clamp, parentheses, X. That's X right here. Then it's Y is your minimum. So let's say we want a minimum of 5 RPS. We'll do lower than that. We'll do 3.5 for idle. So our minimum is going to be our idle, 3.5. So it's going to be X. Minimum value is going to be 3.5. Maximum value is going to be whatever we want that to be, which is going to be 20 in this case. So we're going to go and set that up. So clamp. And it's going to give you an error message. Too few arguments for clamp because we're not done yet. Remember, we need to do parentheses. If you get confused, you go down here, you look at it right there. All right, this is a little bit more advanced, but it's better to learn it now. So if we look, we need an X next. X. Comma. Now we don't put in Y. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be putting in our minimum value. Remember I said I want 3.5 RPS. Next we're going to do Z. Z is going to be our maximum. So we want to do comma, and that's going to be 20 RPS. Next we need to do a close parentheses. That is what that's going to do is that's going to come in here, and it's only ever going to give us a 3.5 to 20. All right, that's all it's ever going to do, 3.5 to 20. It's not going to allow us to go negative. That's fine. What this is going to allow us to do, though, is when this goes negative, this will trigger our reverse. So what this is going to do is act like a real boat throttle. When you put the throttle forward, you're going to go forward. When you put it in neutral, you're going to stop. When you bring it backwards, you're going to go into reverse. So that's going to control all that. And the clamp is going to keep it so the engine, we never want the engine to try to go to spin backwards. So we want the engine to always stay at least at 3.5 for idle. So that's going to go there. So that's going to go through this clamp. Again, clamp X, 3.5 are idle, 20 is going to be our maximum. It goes into the PID. Now, I know this number off the top of my head, so I'm going to do property, and I'm going to go property number, and I'll show you why we do property next, or later. And this is going to be our p-value. All right, p-value stands for that proportional gain. We're going to plug that in. Now, we want to put in a number. I know off the top of my head, 0.18 works pretty well. This needs to be tuned. PIDs can be very confusing in the beginning, but we'll go over that. All right, we're not going to worry about I or D. All right, next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go simple mode. We're not going to worry about stoichiometry and air-fuel ratios. What we're going to do is pretty simple. We're going to do a very simple air-fuel ratio here. All right, what we want to do here is we want to do, we'll actually do another clamp. We could do clamp here, so let's actually do this clamp on this side, 0 to 1. So that's going to limit our throttle to 1, all right? And so that's set up there. So 0 to 1, that's just the simple clamp. Again, we can do with the function. That goes into our air, all right? Now, fuel, we need a function, all right? And we need x divided by 2, or what I like to do is x times 0.5, all right? So what that's going to do is give us half, right? If our air was 1, x divided by 2 is 1 divided by 2 is 0.5, or we could do 1 times 0.5 is half. So I did x times 0.5. That goes into the fuel manifold. So our air is going to be 1. Our fuel is going to be 0.5. That's going to give us a reasonable air-fuel ratio. It's not super complex. Later, we can get into supercharging. I have tutorials on that in the beginner series. I'm not going to really go into that too much. All right, good. Next thing we need to do is deal with our starter. All right, so if we remember up the helm, remember the 6 key is going to start and stop our engine. So we want to go to composite read on off. We want to plug that in. Now remember, it was channel 6 was the one we did in our seat. So 6 is going to turn on our PID. So when that is on, it's going to turn on our PID. That's going to give us some sort of air and fuel. When that is off, it's going to read a 0. Guess what that does? It shuts your engine off. All right, good. Now, you can't leave your starter on all the time. A lot of new players, they'll say, I built a boat. I have like 8 big medium generators on there, and it's still not enough electricity. Why is my boat eating so much electricity? It's usually because they have the starter running the whole time. So our starter is going to automatically shut itself off, and it's automatically going to come on in case we stall. All right, so let's get that set up. So we need a condition based off RPS to get our starter going here. So we're going to go ahead and do AND. All right, so we need 2 conditions for our starter to go. 1, we need to turn our engine on. This will shut that system off when we want our engine to shut off. So we do AND. All right, so there are 2 conditions. 1, do we have 6 on? All right, the second one is less than. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and your engine needs to be between 2 and 2.5 to start. So we're going to go 2.5. So if the RPS, if the rotations of the engine is less than, then we want to do constant number. And we're going to do 2.5. So once it gets above 2.5, the engine will run on its own. It no longer needs the starter. All right, and so I'm just going to change this up a little bit. We'll plug that there and plug this there. So what this is saying is, hey, there are 2 conditions for us to actually use the starter for the engine. 1, I turn on the engine with 6, so I actually want my engine to run. That will come down here, and if my RPS is less than 2.5. So as soon as my engine goes over 2.5, the starter will disengage. This is, you see a lot of new players, they leave their starter on all the time. This fixes it, very simple to do. All right, that's all you need. And so you want it on with my on switch, and we have an RPS less than 2.5 RPS, it will trigger the starter. If we stall, it will automatically restart our engine for us. All right, next we're going to do an auto clutch. We need, let's start with an up-down counter. We'll kind of build it backwards. All right. And so what we need to do is we need to set an increment. So let's do point. Now, the clutch goes from 0 to 1. 1 being a full application of the clutch plates. So let's do 0.005. All right, so that will slowly add the clutch. It will slowly disable the clutch. We might need to tweak that depending on our engine dynamics. So disabled to enabled, and 0 to 1. Those are our clutch values. That plugs into the clutch. All right, so now we need something to trigger. When do we want to add clutch? Well, we need a couple conditions. We need enough torque. Our engine needs to produce enough power so that it doesn't stall the engine. Some of your RPS, at least 2 RPS, is required to keep your engine running. All right, so we need 2 RPS. We're going to use that for the engine running, and we're going to need some more RPS for the power to get the propeller to spin. The propeller is spinning against the water, right? The water wants to stay in position. The propeller is going to try to spin against the water. That's called resistance. And the resistance is going to try to slow down our engine. Well, we still need 2 to be able to turn our engine. So we're going to start with 4. All right, so we need 2 conditions. So again, with 2 conditions, we need an and, Control V. So I copy that, Control C, Control V that. So we need 2 conditions to increase our clutch. All right, 1, we want the RPS greater than a certain number. All right, so RPS plugs into here. RPS greater than a certain number. We'll do, instead of a constant number here, let's change these to properties. This is a new habit I'm trying to get into, so property and number. Let's actually do this. So right here, the starter cutout is right there. So let's go starter cutout. And what that means is the starter will shut off once it hits this level, 2.5. And the reason I use these property numbers, I'll show you later. They'll make sense to you later. You don't have to come in the microcontroller and find these blocks. You can do it from outside. It makes it a lot easier. Well, I copied that. This one here is going to be the clutch application. So this is when the clutch starts to add. Now we need the 2 RPS to keep the engine running. We need probably 2 more at least to be able to handle the prop. So 2 RPS is just to keep the compression of the engine going, and 2 RPS is actually to start moving the propellers. So that's 4. If we make this number too small, we'll stall our engine. All right, so we have 2 conditions. When do I want to start increasing my clutch? I want to start increasing my clutch when my RPS is greater than 4. So that means we're pushing this forward, right? Is greater than 4. And we're going to do another greater than. So we can copy that and paste it. We can actually go right off of this. So we'll go off this one here. So when my set RPS is greater, so what this is doing is this is my WS key. So we want 2 conditions. We want the clutch to come in. 1, when I'm asking for the clutch to come in, my WS. 2, when the engine is revving high enough to give it to us. So that gives us our 2 conditions to be able to do this. So when I'm asking for it and when the engine has enough torque to do it. That goes there. Next thing we need is a not block. So not, and I'll put the not right here. When these 2 conditions are met, we want to start increasing our clutch pressure to make us go forward. When these 2 conditions are not met, we want to start reducing our clutch. And then when the starter is on, I want to 0 my clutch. If the engine is engaged to the propellers with the clutch and you try to start it, you're fighting the resistance of the water. So when you're doing a start, you want to 0 that out. So that goes there. All right. So when we meet our 2 conditions, we'll start to increase our clutch pressure. When we don't meet our conditions, we'll bring it out. And what this does is what's known as auto feathering. So feathering is when you put the clutch in, you pull the clutch out. As you get close to a stall, you reduce some of the pressure. When you get away from the stall, you start to increase the pressure, and eventually it will increase to 1. All right. We'll learn a little bit more how that works later. All right, and we should be good. We don't need that engine node next. Let's actually get rid of it. We don't need it. So this is all updated. So now see these? This is why you do those property numbers. Let's say that my engine starter cutout is too low. Let's say it was at 1.8. Well, the engine, or 1.8, yeah. If it was at 0.18, the engine doesn't sustain itself until 2. So you can change it here without having to go into the microcontroller. So that's why you do it. Let's say clutch application is, we keep stalling, go to 5 and you won't stall anymore. So let's hook up our nodes. So clutch. So we're going to control both engines with this. So we go to both clutches. It is best to do them independently, but we're going to go simple mode here. Again, this is a new player series. So air manifold, as you can see, air manifold, fuel manifold, goes to fuel, fuel, and then starter is starter, starter. Now we need, also, we need to add a node here for, remember, we need cooling. So we're going to go ahead and actually, I want that engine node back now, but we'll add the engine node. The engine node tells us our temperature. So we'll go ahead and we'll do composite input, engine, and we'll just do one of them. And then we need to do a number output, and this is going to be coolant pump. And we'll add some more nodes. We're still adding nodes here. And this one here is going to be alternator, number output, alternator. Okay. We're going to go super simple on some of these here, all right? So ultra simple here. So they spawn up here. All right, coolant pump, alternator, engine. All right, so engine. Let's go ahead and look at the engine, and that will tell us what nodes we need. So if we go here, again, to logic, composite, hover over, it will tell you what the nodes are. Value 1 is your air volume. Value 2 is your fuel volume. Value 3 is your temperature. We're looking for temperature right now. We can go ahead and, if you watch some of the tutorials where I go into stoichiometry and supercharging, you'll need the air and fuel then. So we just drag one of the engines, and that will give us our temperature. All right, so we'll go ahead in here, and we have our engine. So remember, 3 is temperature, so we want to read a number. That number is 3. So we click on that and go down to 3. That's going to tell us our temperature. So this is going to be for our cooling system. We're going to go ahead at greater, and we're going to make this super simple. So if the temperature of the engine is greater than, and we're going to go property, and we want to do property number. I'm actually going to drag that to constant number to property number. I use that more now. All right, and property number. And so what this will be is cooling min temp. So I'm going to make it 100 degrees. So our cooling system is not even going to turn on until we get to 100 degrees. At 120 degrees, your engine will light on fire and explode. So you need to keep it under 120. So at 100 degrees, it will start to cool our engine. All right, and next we want to do a numerical switch box. We haven't done this yet. So right here, this here is our switch signal. This is our off value. This is our on value. Next, we want to do a property number. And this is going to be coolant, pump, clutch. So when we're under 100, the clutch is going to be 0 on this. The pump is not going to turn. When we go above 100, it's going to turn the clutch to 1, and the pump is going to turn its maximum value. All right, and we'll come up here to coolant pump. That goes right there, and we plug that in. So that's going to go, and that's going to turn on our coolant system when when we need it. All right, so here's our alternator. Now we're going to go super simple mode again on this. We're going to just copy all this. All right, and we'll plug that in. We're going to go ahead and back to design, and we need to add a node. Number input, battery. Okay, back. We're going to come up here to the spawn area, grab our battery. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. We don't need this anymore. So if we actually don't want, let's go less than. All right, so the battery will read 0 to 1. 1 is a full battery, 0 is a empty battery, and anywhere in between there. So the battery, if the battery is less than, and I'm going to put a value here, 100. Minimum battery level. All right, so if our battery is less than fully charged, we're going to come up here, and we're going to turn on the clutch for the alternator. So this is super simple. It's going to charge the battery, stop charging the battery. This is less elegant. You can get into PIDs. We're not going to get into the PIDs for this stuff. I generally PID my coolant pump and PID my alternator, so it only gives me exactly as much as I need. But this is a little bit more simple. So if our battery is less than 100, less than 1, 100 would be percentage. So if it's less than 1, it will turn on it will give us 100% alternator clutch, and it will start to charge our battery. So we'll go on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off to charge our battery. Pretty simple there. Let's update that. Next thing we need is a battery. you will see new players do this. They'll start adding an enormous amount of batteries to their craft. You do not need this. This is expensive. This is very heavy. If you set up a proper charging system, you should only need one battery, and we're going to have a second battery as a backup emergency battery. Okay, so 2 batteries there. Let's start hooking up nodes here. So we want to go data, and we need our RPS. So we're just going to do 1 engine here. And we need the coolant pump. So we're going to do both of them together. So these are modular engine fluid pump. Then we need alternator. Those go to our 2 alternators. All right, good. Battery, we're just going to pick a battery. So our starboard battery is going to be our regular battery. And the port is going to be our emergency backup battery. All right, so that's all plugged in there. All right. So let's go back to the panel. We need to work on some stuff here. So let's go ahead and see. So let's go. Let's see. I have to look at it really quick. Let's go back. Okay, so we have enough space. I just want to make sure I'm not going to hit the side of the boat and put a hole in it. So let's go wider. And we need to add something. So here is going to be on-off output, and that's going to be reverse. This is for our, I'll type in the whole word so you guys can see it. All right, reverse. All right, so it's up here. Again, the reason I put the spawn area is that will spawn somewhere like that, and you'll never be able to find it. It'll take you a while. If it's up here, it's easy to find. All right, so what we want to do here is, the reason I use this up-down counter here is mainly to set our reverse. So if you see here, this will never go below 3.5, right? Let's actually do something here. I have to fix this. So this should actually be, let's see, ABS. All right, so let's look at what ABS means. So that's a little bit more complicated now. This whole formula does a lot of work. This does like what 10 of these blocks would do. So let's look at add-on. ABS, absolute value of X. So remember, when you, if you remember back to, math class, by putting these parentheses, it's giving us the different arguments, and it's doing them in the right order. So I have ABS of X. What is ABS? ABS is right. I just saw it, and I lost it again. ABS right here. Absolute value of X. What absolute means that it always gives us a positive value. It never goes negative, all right? And so we want that because when this goes to -5, we want this to rev our engine up to 5. So even though this will say -5, this will read +5, and that will tell our engine rev up to 5. If I didn't do that absolute, when this went to -5, it would keep us at idle. All right, so we want absolute value of X. Now, why are we going negative? We're going negative here for the only reason is for reverse. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a less than. Now, if you don't fill in this, it will be 0. All right, so we don't need to fill it in if it's going to be 0. This is going to be 0 in this case. So if this number here is less than 0, right, that means we want to go in reverse. So we plug that in, it will trigger us and put us in reverse. So when our throttle goes below 0, it will say, hey man, I want to go in reverse. And then it will rev up to 5. This will read a +5, and it will rev our engines up in reverse. All right, so pretty simple there. Let's update that. All right, if we click on our 2 gearboxes, these are set to 1, -1, 1, 1, and 1, -1. This is reverse. That means our engine's turning at 1, and our prop is turning at -1. All right. The ratio off is 1 to 1. That means that it will just pass right through. So we'll go ahead and we'll hook up our 2 reverses. So those are our back ones. All right, so those are the only gears we're shifting is reverse. And I think we're good to start here. So let's, electricity is next. So let's go to electric. That's under the logic electric. Now notice we have a lot of electric nodes. So we're going to do pretty simple here. All right, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do a relay. And so what this relay is allowing me to do is, you'll see a lot of people, they'll kill their batteries early on. And so we don't want to kill our battery. We don't want our battery to die. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this one here, and we're going to plug it to this node here. What this does is it separates our battery from things that could be burning electricity. And so this allows us to make sure that when we get off the boat, if we shut our engines off, we're not going to be burning a lot of electricity. All right. So then this is going to connect to everything. So what I want to do here is I kind of set this up a little bit particular. So I put like systems together. So my two rudders are going to go together. My gearboxes, I only need the back gearboxes here. So we'll connect this to the starters. All right. So that is my two. We only need to hook up the electricity. The gears are going to change. We're not changing these. We're only changing our reverses. So then this here is going to go to the other side. So we'll go to this side. So this puts a break in between our electricity. Next thing I do is the two alternators will come together. And these two alternators will go to the master side here as well. Like so. All right, so when the alternator is going, if it's connected, it's going to charge my battery. Now this one here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a breaker. This is our emergency backup battery. This is only for emergencies. Let's say I'll put it somewhere better later, but we're just going to put it right here for now. Let's say that we accidentally leave a bunch of lights on and we kill our batteries. Well, guess what? We can't start our engine and we're stuck. If we have an emergency backup battery like this, what we do is we hook that in there, and then this hooks and it goes right to the battery side. And so what this will do is in an emergency, I can connect this battery to the system. All right, so that's done there. These here need to go to the master, so this will make it so I can't control my rudders unless there's power. All right, so we are all set here to start. So let's go ahead and spawn, and I want to make sure infinite electricity and fuel are off. And here we go, we have our simple boat. So let's, actually I need to do one more thing here, I forgot. So we're not going to have any electricity unless I do this. So remember, when I do 6 on the helm, 6 is our start stop. That will also connect our battery. So that will go down to this relay, connect our battery. Let's spawn it. All right, we're on the helm, press 6. All right, I'm going to start pressing the WS key to go forward. Now it's going, it's just going really slow. Okay, what's likely the culprit is this. Let me just make sure that's connected fine. That's 0.18. I'm just checking everything, make sure I didn't screw anything up. 0 to 1. 0.5 of that air. There we go. All right, likely what this is this value here is too low, so let's do 0.1. That's what it is there. Is we're counting all the way up to 20, so let's do 0.1. So I set that way, way, way too low. So that's how fast our throttle will move. It was just going to take forever to move. All right, so let's, I'm going to hold the Alt key. I set a trim in there, so I'm just getting rid of it. 6. Engine is started. Let's start holding down the W key. All right, so we are moving now. So I have not hooked up steering yet. Let's go ahead and go in reverse. Probably stall going in reverse. All right, see the propellers are turning the opposite direction now. And we're in reverse. All right, so it works, but we're super duper slow, and the main reason is we are overloading our engine. So we're going to start with not a 3 to 1. We'll start with a 1 to 1 on these first gearboxes here. All right, we'll spawn it again. Now what this is doing is, again, you don't get anything for free. We're trading our power, our torque, for RPS, speed. Now, a lot of players, they get really confused with this. They go, I keep increasing my gear ratios, but I keep going slower. It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense. You're trading your power for speed. Eventually, you're not going to have enough power to go you're not going to be able to have enough power to turn the propeller. So eventually you get to a point where if increasing that gear ratio facing the engine makes you go slower, you need a bigger engine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and 6, and we'll hold down W. All right, notice we're going faster now. All right, now the reason we were going slow was because our engines were not powerful enough to turn our propellers that fast. All right, good, so we're moving, perfect. So next thing we need to do is we need to hook up our rudders. So this is part of that hull that I built there. As you can see, we want to make sure that both of these arrows are the same. They're hollow and they're solid on the other side. And we're just going to hook up AD for this. So if we go to data and we go to the axis AD, we hook up to both rudders. Now we can steer our boat. All right. Now, one thing we can do here is we can make our engines more powerful, and we're going to go do that right now. So we actually have some space. So we're going to turn these from 4-cylinder engines to 8s. So it's super easy. And this is why I did not bother with those quote-unquote simple engines. The simple engines, you have to make a ton of space for extra motors. These you do not. Watch this. Add 4 more cylinders. Then we need to go in modular. We need to take a manifold because this will connect all these cylinders together. Now, because these cylinders are mated, let's look at the end of the manifold. As you can see, square, 4 circles, 4 diamonds. Because these are connected to each other, this one's connected to this one, to this one, to this one, they pass fuel, air, and exhaust through each other. These would not unless we hook a manifold piece. Now the manifold will pass air and fuel from this bank to this bank. Now we've gone from 4-cylinder to 8-cylinder engines. So trying to wrap this up. This is going to be a long video. Again, this is teaching a lot of stuff. 6 and throttle. Much more powerful now. All right, let's see if we can steer. Yep, there we go. We're steering. We have a boat. All right, let's make a couple more changes. So in an emergency, I want to be able to stop my boat. So trigger is your space bar. I want to make that push, and this is going to be 0 thrust. So that's going to zero your thrust out. That's going to stop the boat. It's going to shut the engine. It's going to idle the engines, and it's going to disconnect the clutches. So what we do there is when I zero the clutches there, we're going to look up here. Reset value here is going to be 0. So we want to zero the thrust of the engines. All right. And we also want to zero the thrust. We also want to zero the clutch. So I'm just going to copy this or highlight that and move it down. Now, you have an AND here. What we can do is do what's better than an AND is a Boolean. So let's go into bool, and let's look at this one. This one has 4 Boolean nodes. Now, if we go in the Boolean, again, I want you guys to learn this stuff early. X or Y, Z or W. That has that's going to be all ORs, and then we want to take this. So if the starter is on, or if 6, so if we that will reset our engine there. That's going to now reset our clutch. Okay. And then what we want to do is that's also going to go up to here. And then the next one is going to be we want to go to read on off, and it's going to be 31. Now 31 is our trigger on our seat, right? And what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to hit our space bar, and when we hit our space bar, we're going to go ahead and stop moving. So it's a good emergency step. So if we start our engine, we want to zero everything out. When I first turn on my engine, I want everything zeroed out. In case I, say, leave the throttle up and I shut my engine off, I want it to zero out when I start it again. Or when we press the space bar. So this is going to go there. It's also going to go up here to our throttle. So that's going to constantly do that. So actually, I want this not. So we can do this 2 ways. One, we can add a not block here for this one here. Or we can do this. So which node is this? This is node Y. So here's Y. So we're going to put Y in parentheses. That's going to make that its argument. And then we go to operators, and we have not. So that's going to be, when we shut our engine off, it's going to zero everything out. All right, so that's what I wanted to do. So it's X or not Y or not Z or W. So that's going to set that up. So that may confuse people, but you know, this will be in the workshop. You can play with it. So let's go 6. Now we start. Let's go. And now it's working. All right, so you notice our boat is pitching up. We'll go into stability later. We don't need to do that right away. I like to work on steps here. All right, and we're going to do one more thing here. So speed in game is default as meters per second. So we're going to make this real simple here. I'm going to put a dial. We'll do the dial right here for now. We'll move this around. And then we want a linear speed. That's going to face straight ahead. And we're going to plug this in. This is going to tell us in meters per second how fast we're going. Then I want a compass ball. So we're going to make this really simple. I want to go do that first, rescue, and then we'll end the episode. We'll make this a little bit on the longer side. All right, good. Now we need to go to logic, electricity. The dial needs electricity, and the The compass needs electricity. That goes to there. And then index your gauges. All right, so this is speed. And I highly recommend you put your units, meters per second. Speed in meters per second. So we're going to go 0. And we'll say 20 meters per second for now. All right, and we'll go ahead and spawn that. All right, now let's go do a quick speed test. All right. Now we'll see how fast we go. So that is 10 meters, 11 meters per second. Now that seems slow. All right, that is around 18 knots. That's not a bad speed. Things look slow in game. This is a pretty good speed for a boat. We'll fix this later. Let's go ahead and save this. All right, I highly recommend doing this. Put that in, and then make a save right again, and name it backup. This is going to prevent you from, causing yourself disaster here. All right, good. So I will see you guys back in our original save. So let's actually, we'll exit this. I don't think I've saved this world. So this is going to be the new player. Creative. All right, so this is our creative save. And actually, let's do something before we go to the other save. Let's go on the workbench. The boat's going to cost us $7,312, all right? We have $20,000 to start with. So you need to make sure that your first boat does not cost a lot because we need to be able to go do rescues with it. Let's actually add a couple things really quick. Fire extinguisher. Let's add a fire extinguisher here. We'll add 2 of them because we might need them. First aid kits. We're going to need these. So our beginning missions we aren't too challenging, so we'll do that. And then I want to do, let's cut a hole here. Let's cut a hole there. And let's cut a couple holes here. Now we want rope, anchors. Rope anchors. Rope anchors. I just want to get us set up so we can go start and actually use it a little bit. All right, and then what we want to do is do rope. 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 And then we need some place for people to sit, so we're going to do PADD for padded seat. And we'll put some padded seats on here. And now we actually have a boat that we can go use and do a rescue. So let's save that. There's a little bit better setup. So let's look at the money now. 92. So that's going to take half our money to spawn this. All right. So let's go ahead and I will see you guys in the other save. All right. So we are now in the regular save. We're in our career game. 20 grand. We have a mission here. Now, I see a lot of complaints early from players that they don't have any GPS, they can't get around, they can't navigate. This is a very small area. It looks huge. It's not. All right, let's put a marker right here. So this is how far it is from this waypoint to us sitting right here. We can visually see all of this from where we're standing. All right. And remember, we have the custom menu on, so you can knock down fog, you can get rid of weather. I highly recommend having that custom menu on because of that. Now let's go ahead and go in the custom menu and turn on 3D waypoints. That is only 2.6 kilometers away. This distance looks huge. It is not. The distances in Stormworks are pretty short. Even that is only like 45 nautical miles, maybe 50 nautical miles away. This is incredibly short distance. That's only 2.6 kilometers. We can stand here with our binoculars, and I think I just spotted, nope, that might be the volcano. We can look for the boat from here. All right. So the distances are really short. So it could be in here, it could be up here, but we're going to go look for it. All the way out there is only 2.6 kilometers. So it seems like it's a long distance. It really isn't. And with the custom menu on, until you get a better bearing for how to navigate, you can use these tricks like 3D waypoints. And you don't need a GPS. So again, why I recommend you put that custom menu on. So let's explain how this money works. So remember, we have 20 grand in the bank, right? It shows it down here, minus this. So this is going to show us how much money we have minus what we spawn. So let's go ahead and load up our vehicle. So here is our boat that we just made, right? After we spawn this boat, we're going to have $10,723. Now, as long as we bring this boat back and we put it in the workbench, we're going to get all that money back, minus the fuel cost, all right? So this boat cost 9,277. We're going to be down to 10,723, but as soon as we put it back, we have 20 grand again. So as long as we don't damage or waste or use a bunch of stuff up, we're going to get all of our money back. If we lose the boat, we lose the money. All right. Now, the other thing, we're going to spawn this. Before we spawn it, let's do this. Let's walk over here to the diesel pump. 5,165 liters of diesel. Let's spawn the boat. 4,462 liters of diesel gone, or left. What that means is we just went ahead and we filled this boat with diesel. So this boat has that diesel. Whatever we bring back gets put back in the pumps. So if we use 50% of our fuel, we put 50% back in. All right, so let's go ahead and start up. So we have a compass. Early navigation, this is all we need. So let's go ahead and start going forward. You can hide this menu on the left. As you can see, H, hide controls. And we'll start steering over there, right? We know it's over there. Let's consult our map. How do we navigate? All right, let's look at the map. So we know that this is north, this is west. Well, guess what? This is perfectly northwest. To go diagonally from here, here is a little bit more north of west. So we look here, there's west, there's north, a little bit north of west, and guess what? We're navigating. You do not need a GPS. People, for the vast majority of human history, we did not have GPS. People were able to navigate before GPS. You can simply navigate with a compass and a map, and we'll go over some of that basic navigation. You don't need a GPS. You know, it is nice to have later. We can build one later, but you don't need it. And so first you'll start visually looking out like this. Now, the boat will not always have the bow up like this. We will work on a stability system at some point, but we're driving on out. And remember, 2.6 kilometers is as far as the search area. So we're going to look in here as we drive by. Now, everybody and their brother wants a super fast boat to start with. We don't need it yet. We'll make the boat faster. We're already going 20 knots, which is a pretty good speed for a boat. So we're looking for this first rescue. There it is, right there. Just spotted it. Okay, good. So let's get on the helm. All right. So I've seen this criticism. You know, some new players are flabbergasted on how you're supposed to find this stuff. Just, you need to pick up some basic navigation. Again, use your compass, use your map. Where are we going now? Oh my god, I'm lost. No, you're not. You're right there. There's your base. All right, these beginning missions, if you have the no clip shut off, are going to be very, very close. Again, within 2.6 kilometers. There he is to my right a little bit. All right, I'm going to look at my compass, and I'm going to steer to the right a little bit. There we go. We're going to put north facing straight up. North is now facing straight up. South is facing right at us. There we go. He's dead north. A little bit to the east side of north, so north-northeast. Like I said, people for thousands and thousands of years have navigated only with compasses. You can do it too. All right? It's not something you can't learn. I'm confident you guys can learn how to use a compass and navigate. Now, if it's super foggy, guess what? Let's say that it looked like this. This is why I recommend putting it on custom. Yeah, this is going to be tough. Guess what you can do? If you don't want to put on custom menu, sleep through it. This is a big thing a lot of new players miss. You do not have to do every mission. There's no reputation system. You don't lose reputation if you let those people die. It's fine. If you don't like a mission, if you don't want to do a mission, you can just skip it. All right. If you want to go in the custom menu and turn on a third-person vehicle, press K now. I can do third-person just like a custom game. It's up to you. Play how you want. All right. I hate gatekeeping. Play how you want. All right. So notice what just happened. We got close to the mission, and it popped up a message telling us what to do. Remember I said the space bar will now zero out our engines? Space. There we go. All right. We're close to these people now. So let's look at the map. Press M for map. And notice, when we get close, it turned from that big search area to this little guy here. If you put your cursor over it, it says a small boat has an emergency. It tells us how much money because we selected the option. We wanted to know the time and the money of it. We're going to get $7,000 for this emergency. It's going to be very easy, your first mission. Rescue 2 casualties in the ocean to a hospital. Repair critical damage to the vehicle to prevent the emergency from escalating. Okay, that is new. All right, we're going to probably escalate now. I forgot a tool. And we're going to quote-unquote cheat. Now look how close our base is. This is when frustration could happen. All right, let's not let frustration bother us, and let's do this. Let's go into creative menu. We'll do custom menu. We'll do allow teleport, and we'll go like this. We'll come over to our base. All right, it's not cheating if you're in a solo game. All right, teleport here. All right, we forgot something. It was an honest mistake. We forgot it. I forgot to put on, I have 4,600 hours in this game, and I forgot to put a repair torch on. All right, not a big deal. So we're going to click on this inventory block here. We're going to go, actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'll show you the other base. How about we do that? Let's go ahead and we'll run over to this. Well, actually, we won't run. We'll teleport. All right, let's teleport. Again, it's up to you how much of this quote-unquote cheating you want or not. So this is a free base that has cars. Type in repair, or I think it's torch. Is it torch? Right here. It's a welding torch. Click on welding torch, put it right there, spawn it, and where it spawns right here. Go ahead and grab the welding torch with your E key. Now press B. This goes back in the workbench, and guess what? You keep the welding torch, right? Go back in. And we're right over here. Teleport. All right. This is why the custom menu is so great. Now go in here, and you can shut allow teleport off. All right. It's not cheating. You're doing things to make your gameplay easier for you when you're a new player. All right. It gives you more options. So the reason we're doing this is with the new oil spill update, that's a hint. It says repair critical damage to the vehicle to prevent the emergency from escalating. What's going to happen? That's hinting to us that we're going to get an oil spill if we don't repair the sucker. So we're going to use our repair torch, and we're going to repair these items on the boat. And you see it will take a little while, and we repaired all it. So see that? We just got $2,000 for repairing the vehicle. Now notice, we can steal some stuff. This is now ours. So especially early on when you don't have a lot of money, it's worth stealing some stuff. All right, so now we have a couple jabronis here. How do we get these jabronis, these guys, to come with us? Let's grab their rope too. We can't thieve their rope at the moment because we have our hands are full. All right, so we can pick them up. We can press and hold E, and now let's go ahead in here. We want third person K, and notice they're on our back. Let's actually take a picture. I need some thumbnails here. We can do the camera mode if you want. Again, I showed you this last episode. We can take some nice pictures for ourselves here. Bingo. All right, so with third person on, you can see. Oh my God, I forgot to put a ladder on, right? Not a big deal. If you get up next to the boat and you press and hold the space bar, you will do a little jump. So push up against with the W key and do that. You can now put that person in the padded seat. All right. We're going to jump in there. I use the E key to put them in. Press W up against the boat. Press the space bar. It will give you a little jump. Sometimes really tall boats, you're going to need a ladder. We're okay without it. I will show you a ladder later. If I just tap the E key, notice he came towards me. He is now following me. He will jump where I jump. They are not super duper technical or smart. As you can see, he got dopey and he screwed up. Notice he's all screwed up. That's fine. Press and hold E. Their AI is very basic. All right, now watch this. He's in the water. Let's dump him off. Press E again. Have him follow me. He will swim and follow me. We're going to go in the back of the boat. He's going to try to get in. He may not be able to make it. All right, that's fine. We can press and hold E when we pick him up out of the water. Press E, put him in the seat. Now we have our people. Perfect. Let's look at the map. We're going to go ahead and St. Alexander Hospital is right here. It's super close. Let's press 6. The boat was already on, I think. I shut it off. And let's get out of here. We do not need to tow this boat unless it tells us to tow it. And if it tells us to tow it, it will show a line from the boat to where it needs to go. We just leave it. We cannot salvage that boat. We cannot steal it and get money for it. So you don't have to even bother. Right, so we're going to go back to our base. And we can, I'll make a super duper fast car. I know this episode's getting a little long, but you know, I highly recommend you guys. A lot of people are always looking for the shortest video possible, the shortest tutorial video possible. Sometimes you can learn what you need to learn in 5 minutes. Sometimes it's better to learn the concepts behind something, and it's actually going to take you less time. I see a lot of people that watch a 5-minute tutorial, and all they're doing is they say, okay, go here, pull this node here. They never learn how it works. If you learn why something works, if you learn why it doesn't work, and then you can fix it. And that is the real beauty of this game. Is this game is a great engineering and building game. It's fantastic. There is none better in my opinion. And it's complicated, but as you learn how to make this work, it's one of the reasons I jumped right in and showed you guys how to use modular engines. You'll see a lot of people, they have thousands of hours and they've never touched a modular engine because they're intimidated by it. There's nothing wrong with not knowing why or how something works. The best way to cure that is to take the time and learn it. And so I highly recommend take the time, learn how some of these things work, and I think it's going to be more rewarding for you. All right, so we're going to advance this boat. I've done this with my career build series in the past where the first career build series, if you want to watch that, I build a starter boat. I start very basically. This second series, I've gone a little bit more advanced, and then I eventually get to a point where it's super advanced. That's why I'm doing this new player series, is to help get you guys kind of acclimated to the new things. This series is not going to go on for too long. I'm going to go back to the other career build series and keep that going, but this will get you the basic concept. Press the space bar, and bingo, we stop the engines. All right, I'm going to grab this jabroni, and I'm going to jump, press F, try to grab the ladder, and stay dry. It's one of my favorite games is play the game of try to stay dry. We press E, drop that dude there. All right, grab this dude, and we're going to jump, press F, and stay dry. Nice little fun game of stay dry game. Okay, good. Now the boat is in the spawn area. We can despawn it with one of two ways. If I look at it, it says return to the workbench. If I press B, it will bring it back to the workbench. If I go over to, now this only works if I've spawned it at this bench. Let's say I have this bench, I own this one, and I own this one. If I spawn the boat over here, I can't do it that way anymore. What I have to do is I have to walk over to the workbench, and I can edit the vehicle in the workbench zone and despawn it that way. So we can do it either way here. So let's look at our fuel. We have 4462. Remember, it automatically loaded our fuel in there. If I go ahead and I press B and I despawn it, it brings in the workbench. Look at our money again. I'm going to go ahead and press exit. We just got all our money back for that boat, minus the fuel. We're now up to 22,000. We get all of our money back. The only time you don't get that money back is if you leave the boat in the world or if you lose it. All right, so try not to lose your boat. Now let's look at our fuel. We got some of our fuel back. I think we're at 5,100 something. So we used some of our fuel. We actually lose the fuel that's in our fuel lines, in the pipes that go from the fuel tank. We'll lose that, which is fine. It's not a lot of fuel. But we lost some fuel. All right. So let's go ahead and press E, and we'll have these jabronis go. Now, the AI is not very smart, but it follows your path. So where I go, they go. When I jump, they jump. So this is actually a pretty good system because if there's a box, an obstacle, a rock, oftentimes you can get these guys to jump over it. For example, this cliff face here, I'm going to have to jump a little bit to get over. As you can see, them behind me. And so if I jump, watch this. They jump too. So they jump over rocks and everything else. So here are my buddies. And let's get these guys parked. So we want to move them over here. And we want to press E. They'll stop following us. Okay, good. Both of them are there. So what we're going to do quickly is I want to save this. So we can save this here. All right, so I released this to the workshop yesterday. It will be in the description. This is my flat 6 5-speed manual transmission car. This is on the workshop. You guys can use this. We will be using this as the basis for building a vehicle to go places in the new player series. So really quick, what I'm going to do here is I'll just grab a couple first aid kits here. And what we'll do here is really simple. Now let's just do this actually instead. We'll turn on symmetry. That's the center block. We'll build 2 out like that. We'll go ahead and we'll take a couple padded seats. And there are our seats. So we're going to take this. This is going to be our car. We'll spawn this. And we'll grab these Johnnies. So let's go ahead, have these guys follow us. This guy is not cooperative, so we'll hold him. And we'll put these guys in the seat. So yeah, I don't know if it was like this when they first came out with Industrial Frontier. There were a lot of criticism by some people that this was a harder base to start at. I actually think this is kind of almost easier. You have that free car place here, so we can quickly get in a car and transport. So on this 6, and we'll upshift into first gear. Now look at the map. All right, take the time to learn how to navigate. Remember, there was a time, the majority of human existence, we did not have GPS. People navigated normally. I drive very long distances IRL and never use GPS. It's a skill that the more you use it, the more you learn. We're here. We're going to head down this road. We're going to join this road. We're going to turn right. We're then going to take our next right. And then we're going to take our next left. So right, right, left. Pretty simple. That's how you navigate IRL. And that's how people have done it for a very long time. Use the map. And you don't need moving maps. You don't need GPSs. If you want them, that's great, but you don't need them. So it's best to always learn the skills. So right, right. And oh my god, there it is right there. How would I ever navigate there? So I know I've got to throw some shade on that, but I think if you learn some basic navigation skills, it's going to make playing the game a lot easier. All right, so we want to take our people to a hospital. And we'll go ahead and stop. All right, good. 6 shuts the engine off. And here are 2 Johnnies. This guy will put on the ground. This guy will carry. This guy will follow us. Very simple. You want to go inside the hospital. And when they get in here, we just got paid. So you notice we got 2,000 per person. We also completed the mission. So we got a mission complete because we repaired the boat and we rescued the 2 survivors. We got 2,000 per survivor. Now look at their health. See, he's at 100% health. 100% health. If they had been hurt, if their health was lower, we would lose some money. It's not a ton, but it's a little bit. And what we can use is this first aid kit. We just look at them, press the left mouse, and we can heal them up, and we get all our money. Now, that guy's going to follow us. Let's tell him stop following us. And the mission is complete. So that was our first mission in game. I hope you guys find this helpful. Let me know what questions you have. This is designed to be a new player series. If you want some more advanced stuff, you can watch either of my career build series. I did, I think it was like 120 episodes of the first career build series. And then in 2023, I started the new career build series. We're on episode 101. And so you can watch those. That's a little bit more advanced. This is going to cater more to the new player. This is going to work around the new base, the beginner base. This is going to work with some small vehicles. The point of this is to get you guys acclimated with the game. And you'll be able to then hopefully use some of those skills to just play. If you want to learn how to build some of these vehicles, you can watch my tutorials. I go into how to build modular engines, boats, all these things. This is what I'm going to keep on the simple side. How to actually just work and live within the game world. How to build the vehicles, go to the other career build series and go to my build tutorials. This is just more of the mechanics of the game. So hope you guys found that informative and helpful. Hope you guys are enjoying the game. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.